أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Collective Conversations on October 13th, 2025. Uh, thank the audience, those of you joining us on YouTube for joining us, and those who are on Zoom, thank you as well for being here. Want to start off with the number of the day. And the number of the day is 50. 50% of the value of all goods sold in the United States are purchased by the top 10% of the population. Just take that in. 50% of the money spent on goods and services in the United States is spent by the top 10%. That makes the effects of the Target boycott even more sensational, that we were able to affect their bottom line by that much. Another bit of news that definitely surprised me. I don't follow the politics of the city of New Orleans very closely, rarely visit anymore. But the city of New Orleans has elected its first Hispanic mayor. Mayor-elect Helena Moreno will take office in January 2026. She won on first ballot without a runoff with well over 50% of the vote. So congratulations to Miss Marino, who I read was formerly a state representative and then spent time on the city council of New Orleans. Some other news. The Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, those of you who don't know who Arthur M. Blank is, he's one of the founders, I believe, of Home Depot, one of the original people who was there getting it all started. Very wealthy man. I think he also owns the Atlanta Falcons football team, and I think is involved in the Atlanta Football Club, the soccer team as well. Might have some other interests that I'm not aware of. But yeah, so anyway, his foundation announced a $50 million donation to Atlanta's HBCUs. So thank you, Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, for that. In addition to that, still on HBCUs, the Moody Foundation donated $150 million to Houston Tillotson, an HBCU in Austin, Texas. That $150 million is to be spread out over a 10-year period of time. And that $150 million donation by the Moody Foundation is the largest ever gift to an historically Black college or university. So again, thank you to the Moody Foundation for that donation. And not to be outdone, Mackenzie Scott has donated $70 million to the United Negro College Fund as a part of their $1 billion goal for raising money for, again, African American students as well as African American colleges and universities. So Arthur M. Blank, Family Foundation, Moody Foundation, Mackenzie Scott, our thanks go out to you for those donations to historically Black colleges and universities, and also to the future of Black students. One of the other somewhat major things that I wanted to touch on and hope to have some discussion on this evening is the peace accord that was signed over the weekend between the state of Israel and Hamas. I guess the Palestinian Authority is involved in that, as well as some other groups, and also obviously some other nations, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, probably Jordan, et cetera, et cetera. I don't even know. I don't know if Turkey was involved in that, but pretty much anybody that has a representative stake in the Middle East, I think, was at the table yesterday, today. You know, the time difference is kind of hard to put a finger on exactly when it happened as far as the time here in signing that. That is well and good. It is really good to witness a cessation of what was happening in Gaza. To call it a genocide is to tell the truth. So it's good. It's good that major occupation and bombardment is coming to an end, and that aid from both the United Nations, from the United States, from other Arab states, and from the European Union, et cetera, that aid is starting to pour into Gaza. Uh, Medical care, food, of course, all of these different things that are needed by the populace there as they go back to try to re-inhabit, the cities and neighborhoods and villages and everything in which they live, which a lot of it is just rubble, with probably bodies still buried there, unexploded ordnance that is still there. It's going to be an incredibly massive operation just to start clearing the devastation that is there in Gaza before people can actually start on the pathway of rebuilding any kind of life. So that leads us back to the agreement itself. And a major part of that agreement is something called the Gaza Reconstitution, Economic Acceleration, and Transformation Trust. And for those of you who don't know about this or did not know about this, maybe until today, yesterday, maybe the earliest that you'd heard something about it, probably. This is a real estate development play. That's all it is. It's just about real estate. And prior to October 7th, 2023, when Hamas attacked that festival in different villages inside Israel that ignited this whole situation, at least this escalation, because really and truly, since 1949, there has always been conflict. But this conflagration is easily this is the farthest it's ever gone. But anyway, so we'll just say October 7th, 2023, when this conflagration was ignited, when this started. Prior to October 7th, 2023, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar in particular, not excluding other parties. I'm sure Egypt would have had a voice. I'm sure Jordan had a voice. Um, whatever other Gulf states there, they probably had a voice in what was going to happen. There was a plan on the ground in almost its final stages for those three major and all the lesser Gulf states to invest tens of billions of dollars in the development of hospitals, schools, wealthy neighborhoods, resorts, et cetera, along the Mediterranean coast of Gaza. The Saudi Arabian military was to be the basic policing unit for Gaza. and in particular, policing unit for that area of development. There would have been a highway system, transportation system that basically would have divided that those developments from the rest of Gaza, except for those people obviously who would have access to the hospitals, the schools, employment, and the resorts, different things of that nature. You probably would have needed a state pass to take it back to the 50s and 60s to get over there. There's a lot of speculation, unfounded. So this is just stuff that's been thrown around out there. Al Jazeera, different news services, different people with their own take on it. That part of Hamas executing what they executed on October 7th is because they felt that they were going to be pushed out of any kind of a leadership position in Gaza, that their role was going to be diminished, and they felt betrayed. Anyway, there's no proof of that. And we may never hear proof of that, even if it's true. There's a great likelihood that we'll never know whether that is true or not. But what we do know right now is Hamas is defamed, that there will be a multinational military force that will be placed inside Gaza, that redevelopment will start in Gaza, and Gazan citizens will benefit very little from the financial contributions that are going to come in, other than those who are judged as being needed will have occupation. Now, as far as the rest of Gaza being rebuilt, there's been a promise that that will happen, that people will somewhat be able to come back to the life that they had before all this started. But I'm going to tell you that's very tenuous. There have been promises, but nothing in black and white, nothing signed, nothing agreed to. It's kind of yet to be seen whether or not Gazans will occupy Gaza in any number once this ball starts rolling. What we do know from that Gaza reconstitution, et cetera, trust is that they are going to set up, or they are planning to set up, number one, an Elon Musk smart manufacturing zone, the Gaza Trump Riviera and Islands development, and the American Data Safe Haven community for data centers. Those three things are one of the initial parts of that Gaza Reconstitution Trust deal. The mathematics of it, and this is actually in the document, is that they estimate, or they have put a number on the value of the land in Gaza at functionally zero, like the land is worthless, and transfer the land to this trust and any other entities that they deem to be vital to the reconstitution of Gaza will basically come at no cost to these entities. And their estimate in the plan is that at a 10-year development stage, that full redevelopment at that point is estimated to be at $324 billion, of which the citizens of Gaza will benefit not at all, other than maybe some meaningful employment. But the land that will be taken from them and redeveloped will be worth over $300 billion estimated. As of this morning, and I haven't seen numbers since then, they're estimating that there are a little bit more than 500,000 Palestinians, Gazans, who have returned to northern Gaza. And they are returning to basically rubble, and they're also returning to internecine fighting. And the fighting that is going on in Gaza now is between Palestinian groups. The security forces, which is basically made up of people aligned with Hamas, is in battle with Palestinian collaborators who were on the side of Israel in the conflict. There are a couple of tribes. One prominent tribe, I cannot pronounce its name, or I don't know how to pronounce it, hadn't had a chance to Google it and hear it, but it's Doghmush. They are a prominent Palestinian tribe, a very large tribe. They have always seemingly been at odds with Hamas, and they have seemingly been in the back pocket of Israel for some time. And they were filmed yesterday executing people, other Palestinians who were aligned with Hamas, including a very prominent spokesperson for Hamas. So those are some of the things happening in the United States and in the Middle East that have caught my eye over the last 2 or 3 days that I've kind of been following. Those of you who joined us late, I did mention the contributions to HBCUs by the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation. If I remember correctly, I had to check my notes again. They contributed somewhere around 100, I think pretty close to $100 million to HBCUs in Atlanta. Then the Moody Foundation contributed $150 million to Houston Tillotson College and HBCU in Austin, Texas. That $150 is to be paid out over a 10-year period. That initial $15 million has already happened. And Mackenzie Scott, she donated $70 million to the United Negro College Fund. The other thing, and I should have wrote this down, should have wrote the gentleman's name down, brother in our community who's on Facebook, had a post on Facebook removed. And Facebook removed the post because it contained our flag. And basically, the wording that Facebook gave him was that the flag represented either hateful language, hateful image, intolerance, yada, 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 all this kind of stuff. Yesterday, he reposted on Facebook the flag, and he sent some kind of a message to Facebook. And I don't know what Facebook's response has been. He's a friend of Imam Adam Diaz. That's how I learned about it initially, is through Imam Adam. And Imam Adam has been in contact with him. And I'm hoping that Adam has a chance to join us tonight and give us some updates on that particular situation. So one of the things that we talked about last evening, Adam and I, just individually, talked about last evening was some type of unified response from individuals, groups in our community to Facebook to bring to their attention what that flag means. And the key individual, meaning Imam Waratadeen Muhammad, who is the leader of our community, his embrace of the United States of America and its values, and how that flag represents us and our place in the American kaleidoscope, and it represents everything that is good. So some of you know about this, some don't, but I do, again, I want to say that is something that we should think about as far as creating a response to this particular kind of action. And I don't think, well, at least this is what we were discussing last night. Adam and I don't think this is going to be the last time, given the current administration and current atmosphere amongst certain groups, organizations in this country, that individuals and groups are going to come at us, either individually or at our organizations. So those are kind of opening bait in the water kind of things. So you don't have to raise your hand. I would love to just have a discussion about any and everything that I shared those few minutes and just see what's on everybody's mind. This is an open forum. This is not anybody giving a kupa. So if you want to comment on anything, please join in the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Ishmael. How are you?
Good. I guess everybody they want to unopen it once. But yeah, that's interesting with the last comments you made about the them being flagged, our flag being quote unquote flagged. So I'm assuming someone had to report it for them to even look into it. And I think this would
We're
be go ahead.
yeah, we're assuming that we don't know,
Right.
right?
But I agree with you. This will be a great opportunity for us to explain what our flag represents, especially coming from quote unquote America's imam. So that might bring more light to what it represents and how it is an American flag. So thank you for that information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It came as a shock to me because so many of our organizations have that flag as a part of their whatever landing page, and so many individuals in our community have that flag on their Facebook page, or if they're on Instagram or whatever, it's there. It's been very prominent, at least over the last 2 or 3 years, as I've become aware of its use. And I mean, I can remember we have a huge one, Imam Samad, that big, huge flag, right? And we took that flag to every event in and around Dallas and around the country that BISME WDM ever attended. And we've got that flag with being photographed with Congress people and county commissioners and city council people and all of that holding that flag. And man, that's had to have been, I think the first time I ever participated in something like that with the flag was maybe around 2015, 10 years ago. And I've never witnessed or heard of any backlash against our flag until yesterday. Let's go to Imam Michael Hameen. Go ahead, Michael.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum salam.
Yeah, this to me shows the importance of the associates, followers, and students of Imam Waratadeen Muhammad making a distinction in terms of our understanding of Al-Islam and purporting Al-Islam to the public, and particularly with those that we want to align ourselves with, ally ourselves with, in terms of right-minded people, as well as true Christian Americans, Jewish Americans, those that actually stand on the principles of their faith above, quote unquote, American democratic labeling. I think it's very important that we make the distinction in how we purport al-Islam according to the Quran and Prophet Muhammad's example, because we see the condition of the overall ummah of Muhammad. It's in bad shape. And even here in America, we have Muslim brothers and sisters that don't see life in America as we do. And we saw that in terms of the election and where they gave their alignment to. So, it's very important. And it's very important, I say it often, we need to meet more and deal with these critical issues. We've lost a lot of ground. Lastly, we've lost a lot of ground in terms of what Imam Muhammad came in and presented to us as the need in our souls for establishing community life. We've got too many qualified individuals that I don't know whether it's fear or just what it is in terms of giving some of their attention to proper uh, architectural structure of our Muslim life here in America. Some of it may have to do with the wrongly introduced idea of autonomy without seeing ourselves in a group picture uh, as Muslim Americans. Thank you.
Yeah, that is that's very interesting. I remember maybe 3 weeks ago, someone on one of their programs showed again one of the lectures that the Imam gave. It was an outdoor lecture in which he talked about the autonomy issue. And I don't know if he spoke about that issue more than once. I mean, some of you who have listened to many more of his recordings and things of that nature than myself might be able to comment on that, if that is something that he spoke on often or if that was a one-off just that day. Because in that particular lecture, he was very clear that he didn't want any really close ties between our masjids, between our significant organizations, or anything of that nature, because he was very fearful of the United States government infiltrating those organizations, planting people in those organizations that would lead to whatever disruption, fraudulent activity, so on and so forth. He seemed very afraid of that. And those of you who were, I mean, I did not come into this community until the early 1990s. So I don't know how much water had already flowed under the bridge by the time I came in. I've heard bits and pieces of things since then of his dissatisfaction with certain elements in the community and things of that nature. And I know of some illegal acts by people who were significantly a part of the community. But I don't that was really strong because I kind of debated that whole thing before in my head and with other people, saying, "Oh, he couldn't have really meant that." But at least in that particular address, he really seemed to mean exactly that. Michael, your hand is either still up or
Yeah.
it's up
No,
again.
I just put it up again.
Okay.
Yeah, I came in the community in 1969, January of 1969, I believe, somewhere around there. And I sense that you see the sophistication of Imam Muhammad's leadership. You know,
Hmm.
oftentimes we mention keys and hints and clues that the Imam would give us. He he told us that he was uh, interesting, and he wanted us to look at the Focolare community, not just in terms of love, their focus on love, but in terms of their organization. And if we look at how they made the transition, their transition is something that we were invited to look at by some, not many. Um, we missed a lot in terms of the knowledge body of Imam Muhammad and what his logic from the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad were inviting us to. But the idea that you mentioned was to prevent us, and we still have, like here in Florida, we have remnants of this idea of using corporate structuring of ourselves, which the Imam was not in favor of in terms of our Muslim community life. That might be necessary in other aspects of our individual uh, establishment and development, using corporate language, but always having it filtered through the lens of the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad, which he emphasized the importance of that. Yes, he did talk about the problems, but I remember a a a Juma lecture that was a broadcast like the first Sunday broadcast. It was a Juma, and I think there was more than one of those, but this one in particular, he talked about we having enough qualified individuals to vet the new leadership, the representation of the new leadership for the overall association of Imam Muhammad. Um, that was, you know, you know, some folks. Excuse me, but this kind of bothers me. Some folks are smarter than smarter than everybody else in their own eyes, so to speak. And this idea of autonomy uh, was not put in the full context, and because of the position of the person that introduced it, it was, you know, and also the trauma of when it was introduced, as the leader had recently passed. But no, we were called upon to vet someone, and it has to be organic. It can't. It's not a thing where we uh, choose our structure based upon the principles and ideas of this world. It has to be organically tied to the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad. This the Covey family. The idea of leadership that they focus on. They describe the formal and informal leadership. And that's true of us. We have individuals that are formally our leaders, but we also have individuals because of their sincerity and the knowledge and spirit that they possess that we acknowledge and recognize them. Maybe not verbally, but in terms of them influencing our our knowledge body. We consider them, as leaders. And the Imam talked
Hmm.
about that. Lastly, the Imam talked about the resourceful men and women as leaders. And we really need to, we're neglecting the knowledge body of Imam Muhammad as a leadership focus. Thank you.
Brother Ishmael.
Yes, I agree with my brother Hameen about who, how it was introduced and the sensitivities at that time. And even speaking of the folklore, since Kiara Lubick passed, they've had two leaders, at least two since she's passed. So they have an understanding of leadership and the importance of leadership. And secondly, I don't know if I was listening to the imam or if I was in a setting like this or what, but the imam was weary of people coming into the organization. He was talking about how one brother wanted to come be under him in his organization, and the imam was like, why you need to come do your work here under my organization? You can work from where you are. There's no need for you to come be under me. And I took that to believe that, okay, yeah, you have to be wary of that, and we can do the work from wherever we are. As long as we have the same goal, we don't have to be under, some organization where it goes from one tier to the next, and this head person takes in all the money and is responsible for everything. But we can be working on the same goal in our own locations. And I think that's what we
Hmm.
should be doing, not necessarily where, all the money goes to. 'Cause I think with the Nation of Islam, everyone still sends money to Farrakhan, you know? So that's my understanding of it. And we shouldn't have anything like that.
Right.
And that's my quick thoughts on it. I'll stop there. Thank you.
No, I think those thoughts are good. What Michael said was great. So my follow-up question to both of you and anybody else that has knowledge: what is the structure of the Focolare? I know about them. I have no knowledge of their structure. What can you tell me about how they do business, how they organize themselves? Does anybody know? What fascinated, other than their love of humanity and their desire, seemingly, to unite humanity, what else fascinated them so much to Imam W.D. Muhammad? And why would he have pointed toward them as being something to replicate? Michael?
Well, to me, obviously, what Ishmael mentioned in terms of their ability to make transition, a worldwide organization, but having local leadership representation. I met Focolare when I moved here to Florida early around 2020 or somewhere around there. I was invited, and I attended a Focolare meeting um, in here in Florida. I forget the exact location, but uh, they have, and I don't want to say I know a lot about them. It's just in terms of the man pointing to them. And I haven't had a lot of connection with them, but I know CB Hanif here in Florida and some others. Um, Perhaps even, and I'll check with Imam Ronald B. Shahid because he had a lot of interaction and knows personally a number of members of the Focolare community leadership. So we should ask those that have really had a deeper connection because, like I said, it was more than just the principle of love that they were representing. The Imam commented that that we could learn a lot from them. And so, like I said, the subtle nature of his leadership, he, he just didn't. He left us. He left us with the Islamic principle that the Juma represents. You don't give everything. You leave enough for the respecting of the people's intelligence to follow the logic. And he was very respectful of that. You know, he didn't hit us in the head with what we needed in terms of developing ourselves as a community. Again, I'll say this lastly. Imam Ronald Shahid told me a conversation that one of those private conversations, and he said, "Well, Imam, do you expect us? Told us a lot about the world operations and what's going on in the world. Do you expect us to do anything about that?" And Imam Muhammad's comment was, "No, but I'm hoping that it will encourage you to establish the Muslim community life." And I think we're still, it's such a big, this is my thinking, it's such a big project. And the forces of opposition to that are extremely large. So even those that have understanding of dealing with social issues and uh, responsibility, you know, in terms of dealing with, you know, the political issues and so forth, I, I think I think it's just, you know, we need to pray to Allah for what we need in terms of the help to really address properly our proper structuring of ourselves as a Muslim community life with the distances and so forth that we have. Um, Smaller groups of Muslims here and there, like in Albany, Alabama, and you know, the small, so-called Islamic centers, and that many of our children are influenced to leave those, so to speak, and go to the big city, you know, Atlanta, and the larger metropolitan Islamic community settings. You know, so I'll stop there.
Okay, 'cause I want to come back, Michael and Ishmael. I see your hand up. I want to come back to the whole thing of those individuals who traveled with Imam Muhammad, who were there when he was interacting with Focolare, when he was interacting with the Latter-day Saints, when he was interacting with the Jewish community leaders, and so on and so forth. Where are they? And we can come back to that. You guys can give me an update on where those fine individuals are and why they're not sharing what they learned with the rest of us, or if they are, why am I missing it? Ishmael?
Yeah, I pulled up a quick um, structural organization of them, and this AI that I use is it's been pretty accurate overall. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say that they're 100% because I don't know, but it talked about the governance and leadership of the folklore movement. And it says it has a distinctive, stand by real quick. It says it has a distinctive organizational structure centered on unity and dialogue, guided largely by lay leadership and a global system of representation. At its core, the movement is led by a female president, supported by a male co-president, and a general council that includes representatives from all segments of the organization. The movement is present in 140 countries, divided into 15 geographical regions, and each coordinated by a male and female delegate with local councils. So, just a few points on the governance and leadership. The president must always be a laywoman according to the general statutes. The co-president is typically a male, often a Catholic priest. Both serve 5-year terms, renewable once for the same position. It was diverse representation from all aspects of the movement. So that's just some quick
Okay,
structural organization that I've found. So
interesting. Number one, it's very interesting that they almost always have to be led by a woman, which I have no problem with whatsoever. And that typically the number two person is a priest, which that is, I mean, that's almost, it's almost like a consigliere. So in the large Italian families and organizations, there's usually a consigliere, which is really somebody that understands the law extremely well. So in their particular case, it's someone who understands and has a designated title as far as understanding the scripture to underpin what the leadership is doing. That's the way it appears to me. I could be 100% wrong. That just seems to be kind of a standard structure, and it has always worked. Michael?
I agree. I agree with your assessment, and I did take note of the language that suggested Shura Bainahum. You know, yeah,
Yes.
and that's very very important. And again, I didn't have any idea. I appreciate Ishmael's ability to do quick research for us. And yeah, but it's what we have in front of us is so challenging, and I have to say it because I'm looking at it all the time. Ego management is a big issue in terms of what we're dealing with. It's a big ego management, and the idea of individualism that is very apparent in the atmosphere of America in particular. We have the big idea of rugged individualism, and but quietly, and this is something that we're not aware of in mass. Quietly, the different uh, groups like the Latino group, they have a philosophy of mi familia. They have a group philosophy that's not spoken of. You know, it's not spoken. The Asians, the Asians, white supremacy is a philosophy that holds them together. That holds Europeans together, and so the problem with us as being former Negroes is just that we're still working to heal ourselves from the social miseducation that we've experienced.
In the military, especially in the Navy, I had two uncles who were in the Navy, and there's a saying in the Navy that the chief petty officers, run the Navy, not the admirals,
That's
not the
right.
captains, not the
I'm a witness.
commanders.
I'm a witness. Yes, sir.
Chief petty officers run the Navy.
And for every branch, every branch.
Right.
The not the not
There's somebody at that level, yeah, that
non
really
non-commissioned officers. Yes.
exactly. They make it home. They're
Well,
the
they
ones that
say
make it work.
the Focolari identified themselves as a lay group. That's
Right.
and you got levels in terms of lay leadership.
Exactly. So you were mentioning Hispanic families. So we can go Hispanic families, which I'm very familiar with from where I grew up. They are structured and you are made to believe that they are very patriarchal. Mamacita runs the show,
See,
right? If you've ever gone to one of their homes to have a meal, which I've done on hundreds of occasions, that's who makes it run. That is the keeper of all things family, telling you what to do, when to do it, whatever. Now, the husband might appear to you to be giving the orders. Fact is, that guy may work 15 hours a day. And the person who's really keeping the family together is his wife, and she's the one that's telling him what to wear, when the quinceanera is, when this is going to happen, when that's going to happen, all of that. And she does it with grace, and he treats her with love and compassion and benevolence. And it's seen throughout the community, that respect level. In Japanese society, 85% of married Japanese women control all the finances of their house. Their husband gets paid. If he gets a check, he hands it over to his wife. If it's a direct deposit, she's the person that's managing the money, the home, making sure the kids are taken care of, all of that stuff. Husbands typically go day to day on an allowance. So they can have their noodles for lunch, and they can have their one beer while they're waiting on the train to come home.
Well, that's how I wound up with my first wife. That was the system. Yeah.
So there are systems that work. There are organizational structures that work. And I thought we had developed, at least I was taught this as a child, that the culture that we as African Americans had developed coming out of slavery, through Reconstruction, through barbarism, into Jim Crow and more barbarism and all that, was a structure that was very similar to those two that I just mentioned. Is that the woman basically made things run. She made things hum because the husband was out making money. And of course, this is a different time, and I'm not sexist. This is a different time when women were restricted in many cases from doing certain jobs. I mean, I only recently found out that until 73 or 74, that a woman could not have a bank account on her own. And it took me back to when my own father died in 1973. I guess they just didn't have any choice but to allow my mother to have that bank account because she had 4 kids at home. They just didn't have a choice. And I don't remember, because I never saw the checks or the deposit slips, or whether or not that account was still in my father's name. I don't know. And I really and truly wish that I knew. And I'm sure there's records I could find out, but the structure of our whole community is based on the structures that we put in place in our very homes. And making sure that that particular structure that we have in place at home is one that can be successful in today's world with today's challenges. Because if we can work that out, you can export that to any other organization, unit, group, whatever, and it'll work there if you can make it work at home. Michael, your hand is up again?
Yes,
right?
sir. Yeah,
Okay,
we're having a conversation. And
all right.
two things. Uh, I remember hearing 50 Cent, the entertainer and the mogul guy, uh, talk about his grandfather and grandmother. He lived with them after his mother's passing, being killed. And he talked about just what you mentioned, and I mentioned, that his grandfather told him the psychology. If I give her the whole check, she knows what we can and cannot have, based on the reality of this. This is the money coming in, darling. But now, I think that was innate. That was a natural kind of process for many African American men, in particular, that we're focusing on here. But there's also the issue that's not brought up that I've read about in terms of if you Google the Colored Convention Project, uh, you'll find that there were a number of meetings from 1830 till maybe 50 plus years after, dealing with strategies, and notables like Frederick Douglass and others of that type, uh, newspaper publishers and pamphleteers, but the issue that want to point to is that the women found problems in being their points of view being respected in those gatherings, and it has to do, in my opinion, with the oftentimes elephant in the room in terms of relationships is how women were were given to us as being, the accomplice to the devil himself because of Eve giving the apple to Adam, and the problematic issues of, you got the two extremes of the Virgin Mary and Jezebel, and this back and forth kind of dynamic in terms of how women are perceived, and that it's still problematic today in issues. And I saw that the colored women's movement development, perhaps a response to that, women organizing themselves, and Imam Muhammad even inviting, after asking the sisters to help the brothers using their God-given feminine ways. Uh, the women came back, and out of that discussion with the Imam, they organized servers, and also, the international Muslim women's groups. So it's still a problem. It's still a problematic issue of this, what is it, paternalistic kind of behavior. They have terms now for men, man speaking or mansplaining after a woman presents an issue, then some chauvinistic man has to explain what she said, you know. And well, the news media had been doing that for years. We see the events, and then they're going to tell us what we're seeing. So it's
All right.
it's it's in the culture. Thank you.
So I guess the question is, for us as a community, in this time of the Rothschilds or Rothschilds, whichever way you want to pronounce it, they would have said that this is the prime time for putting your plan into motion. I think it was Baron Rothschild who famously said, the best time to make money is when the blood is running in the streets. There, in my 2000, 2007, 2008, and 2009 was a pretty bad time in this country with the real estate collapse. It was worse than the dot-com bubble bursting in 1999, 2000, so on and so forth. That was bad. 2008 was worse. 1987 was really bad, but it wasn't as bad as .com. So these events that are happening, and we live in the United States, so we effectively kind of draw a circle around ourselves, but all of these things affect the world. They greatly affect Western Europe, they affect the Middle East, they affect the Far East, so on and so forth. Everything that we're going through in this country right now, and it's hard to believe it's only been since January, affects the rest of the world. From aid not getting into Africa, condoms not getting into Africa. I mean, it just it goes on and on and on and on and on of the full effect of the things that are happening that are being initiated in the District of Columbia in this country. Our formula, to use that expression, for community life, for the world writ large, we believe that it is the best formula for man, humans to live by. Yet this is the quietest I have ever heard the Muslim community be. If you listen really closely to the Islamic community worldwide, you don't hear a thing. It's dead silence. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, yes. 1975, when Imam Muhammad came into leadership, he came into leadership at a time when we were becoming more aware of those who were most favored, materially by the American structure. They were taking their resources out of America. They withdrew their resources. Uh, I would say also, the intellectual resources were being withheld in terms of dealing with the social issues. There's been a digression in terms of American spirit, American influence. In my opinion, we've been moving towards a change, a paradigm shift. Allah in his practice, in his sunnah, is moving us towards better understanding the the influences that we've been under. And also, there's a book called Servant Leadership by Robert Greenleaf. And in the earlier pages of that book, he talks about a tsunami event. Now, this is 1977 that this book was published. So the tsunami event was that disruption, worldwide disruption. But he said that in this time, that it would behoove those those people of material influence and power. He let them know that there was the developing of leadership. He mentions specifically two groups. One, black folks. I don't think he used that language. The other was the other individuals that were under similar circumstances and being oppressed or in bad circumstances. He said that that leadership would be developed, and it would behoove those individuals when the tsunami ended, that they could give, help those two groups, but only to the extent the type of spirit of those two groups would be independent. and that these individuals in that leadership could take what they wanted, what they offered, or rejected in terms of how they saw they could independently utilize those resources that were offered. And I thought that was very interesting, and he deals with leadership on corporate level, servant leadership and so on and so forth, the various aspects. It's a very interesting book. But the beginning of the book, in terms of that picture, and I thought it was interesting in terms of this. This is a corporate guy. This guy was talking like a prophet, so to speak. But he was, I think, General Electric or one of those big corporations. He had worked in for decades.
One thing I'll say to that, and I know you've mentioned him several times, and I really probably need to have a look at that book myself. What would you say if I were to tell you, or at least if I was to posit, that by the time someone brings you a plan to save yourself in the event of a world changing event like a tsunami, that it's already too late? That if you don't already have a plan in place to deal with the absolute worst case scenario that you can imagine, that you will not have time to implement any plan when that event happens. And I'm a firm believer in that particular idea, that you need to already have a plan in place that's yours and that you know will work for you and those you care about, whether that's a small group or a large group or everybody. You already need to have that plan. The time, this is me talking, okay? The time for waiting on somebody to come with some ideas and plans, that's been gone a long time. We have to start formulating our own plans. And yeah, we have to base it around Quran and Sunnah and Sirah and language of Imam W.D. Muhammad and all that, so that you can get people on board and disparate groups to salute it and raise the flag and all that. But whatever you got to do to get that done, that's what we need to be working on. Comprehensive, periodically reviewed and updated. Don't really care if you send an infiltrator in to read what we are working on, because it's all legal, can and will be done. Because things are happening really fast. And I just don't think we can afford to wait on anybody else's bright ideas. And I think you have to plan for the worst. And I also think that you have to be planning for the best at the same time. It's like the thing that I brought up about the schools. Why are we not in the charter school business repatriating tax money that we pay to help fund our schools? Every one of us who's not living on the street is paying property tax.
I can't get in. Down.
So why shouldn't we be repatriating some of that money to our communities to fund our schools? Go ahead, Michael.
Yes, I remember Imam Muhammad explaining the Nation of Islam founder and those like him that he was associated with not trusting the Quran. Imam said that he could, the work that was done or the focus in terms of helping African American people uh, that were kind of like uh, sufferers under the same kind of oppression as his people in India. Farad or Muhammad Abdullah in that in that under that name of Farad Muhammad and those with him did not trust the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad to get the job done. And I think we're in similar circumstances today. And I think what we're seeing in the political movement in America and in the world is, Allah knows how to change attitudes, change our attitudes. And we're told in the Quran about noise
Yeah.
and noise. We're told in the Quran about noise and clamor, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and situations of of tumult, disruption, social disruption. And
Yeah.
so, that's what I meant about the paradigm change. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we were on the air of Americans 360, and Sister Rashida was sharing with us what she heard this laughing going on in the supermarket where she was, and she was curious, and they just kept giggling and laughing. These older women, and so she asked them what they were laughing at, and they told her, baby, Trump got us all going to our knees. And so, that might be the necessary impetus because we're way behind in terms of responding to the type of community structure and organization that we need to have for what's happening today. But, Imam mentioned about Noah's flood, and he said, the people might have drowned, but everybody didn't necessarily die. He suggested that drowning doesn't necessarily mean that just death. And even in terms of the death and bad circumstances, that's the kind of bitterness of life that causes us to sober up and really focus on what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm one of those people who wants to believe that it shouldn't take you getting knocked to your knees, stretchered out for you to realize that changes have to be made.
Well, look at spousal abuse and the trauma that's brought on by it.
I understand. I thought people had learned after Al Green got burned up.
No, no, what did it say? The beat goes on. The beat goes on,
Because
man. It's just it's like human nature. We have recorded incidences, of Genghis Khans and other kinds of social events, and in fact, Allah tells us, our problem as human beings is that we're forgetful and we're hasty, and He cautions us about that, and repeatedly gives us narratives to cause the few, because for some reason or another, He tells us that the most of the people don't know, and there's reasons for that, in terms of capacity as well as just ignoring or arrogance or what have you. There are human psychological reasons why most of the people don't know. So it's up to the few. And I hear, Brother Edward, I hear you. And I'm right with you. And I came into the nation in '69 reading the Quran on my desk and the message to the black man right next to it. I'm reading message to the black man and the Quran. And what got my attention was a verse where Allah says, whether lightly equipped or heavily equipped, you have to come forward, go forward. And that was my spirit coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brother
Yeah,
Ishmael, I'm going to get to you
yes.
in just a
Okay,
second.
go ahead.
I wanted to. I was reading the Sirah, one of them. There's so many books out there on the Sirah of the Prophet. But I was reading one of them, and one of the things that happened about a year and a half after the Hijrah is that the Prophet organized a raiding party, a major raiding party that hit one of the caravans of the Quraysh, and he did it purposefully in one of the forbidden months of fighting. And he did it to instigate action by the Quraysh. And we can talk about different ideas of why he did that. It's historical fact. It's not debated that he did it in one of the prohibited months for fighting. We can talk about that. I have my ideas on it. Go ahead, Ishmael.
Now, I just want to make a couple of quick comments, especially that drowning part, where it say you can drown and not die, and it just made me think about, when you submerge underwater, that you experience oxygen deprivation, and it causes you know permanent breathing issues or long-term brain injury. So some people may be suffering from that drowning, even though they didn't die. We see the long-term effects of it. And speaking of Trump making them people go to their knees, did y'all hear the remark that he made saying that he doubt if he'll enter heaven? Had you heard that
Yeah,
remark yet?
I heard that.
Yeah, he said, I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. I really don't think I'm not maybe heaven bound. So
Mm-hmm.
they said he said that during a press interview aboard Air Force One en route to Israel. And
Right.
that says a lot for your leader to say that, and you still 100% support that leader. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he said the same thing in so many words before. He's never been shy about letting the world know who he is. His actions. I mean, the man could stand in the middle of Shibuya Station in Tokyo, in the middle of the intersection, butt naked. He wouldn't care. He wouldn't care what you said about it. He would not care. This is a man who went on vacation with his wife and children and brought his side piece and put her in the same hotel. What kind of a fool does that kind of stuff?
The kind of fool that the real leaders of America have chosen to turn the lights out.
So I'm gonna say something here based on life experiences purely. No psychological study, no deep dive into whatever, just anecdotal locker room conversation. Mm. There's a heck of a lot of men walking around on the face of the earth who wish they were just like him and didn't give a flip.
I
Walk
agree.
over anybody, do anything they want to do, have a laugh about it. If you say something about it, tell you where to go. There's a whole bunch of men with that attitude.
And the
And it's,
Quran speaks about it
yes,
and their end and how God raises up opposition to those kind of oppressive individuals. You know, a person can be going along, you know, living their life, taking the blows and everything, and some significant emotional event happens, and damn, you got a Superman, you know. You know, so to speak, you know, somebody that's really out of character, you know, out of their earlier character, I should say, but supported by that influence of Almighty God, you know, they rise up, and this is what history shows us, you know.
Look like you have a hand up too, Brother Edward.
okay. Yes, Brother Hassan, you have been trying to get in. I heard you trying to talk. You are live. You're on. Go ahead.
Okay, but sorry, can you hear me?
Well, Alaikum Assalam, hear you bright, loud, clear.
All right, thank you. Now, I have a question for you. Is there any particular um, thing that you're interested in? And I mean, when you say about having a structure for the community, now, you know, all of us do something, have some interest. So
Mhm.
now my interest is economics. That's just my interest. So do you when you say you know about leadership, are you talking particularly about one leader or leadership structure of the whole community, or you have a specific concerns, you know, other than just that?
Okay. So let me try to answer your question. And
Okay.
don't go away because I want to hear your response. Okay.
Okay.
The way I look at it is this. Number one, let me say that I'm deeply involved with a group in the community called Graceline Community.
Okay.
We're working very diligently to get a charter for a federal credit union that we hope to be able to serve our community's interests. I've been working on that for 3-4 years, right?
Um,
Deeply involved in that. I'm also now a part of, for the last 3 or 4 months, a part of AM 360 broadcast platform and CWSC, Community Wide Shura. So I'm involved in that effort as well of kind of trying to pull our community together through different artifices, the airwaves, the Zoom platform, and other things, being a part of that. Now, to your broader question, I think that things need to start locally, right? That there needs to be more systematic, organized involvement on a local basis all across the country. And there are definitely some communities within our association that do that extremely well. So I'm not saying that we're devoid of that.
mhm.
I'm saying that on the whole, we are disconnected where we should be celebrating those communities that are doing it well and working to replicate what they're doing, why they're having success in all the different communities around the country at the level that they can do it, right? I don't,
Right.
for example, I don't think like Michael mentioned a small community in Alabama, Albany. I don't expect for Albany, Alabama to have the same type of development, businesses, schools, and such as Atlanta or Philadelphia or Newark or in Chicago or other places that have a larger population and all that. But their nucleus, what they should be doing, the success model, the seed, should be a replication of what's going on at those very successful places. And all of those places that are successful should be looking at each other, collaborating on constant improvement. What can we do better than what we're doing now? Right?
Right. I think.
What are you doing that I can adopt here? What am I doing that I can help you with there to improve what's going on in your community? Let's share that information. Let's do best practices, so on and so forth. If you get that, however long that takes, if you can get that systemically through all of our communities under the IWDM umbrella, then that gives each state much more uniformity and togetherness. And when you have a state convention, people are talking about the same things, and they're talking about how we can improve everybody in the state and so on and so forth. And when you get your regions together, it's just an extrapolation of that. Everybody's talking about these different ideas. There's an understanding of the direction that we're going. You can still be autonomous. Nobody's going to come to your masjid and tell you what to do. But because you're interconnected and you have this exchange of ideas and understanding of a particular pathway, whatever level you're able to do it at, you're moving together and you're helping each other in this movement. And then you can take that to a national level. And everybody understands that this community has these goals in mind, these ideas of where we want to go on the four birds and everything else without giving up autonomy. You're still going to go back to your community if you're the resident imam and say, and I was at this great meeting and I talked to these other imams and let me tell you what's happening here and what's happening there and what the vision is for us right here, and wherever type of thing.
Can I make a quick comment about that?
Please, Ishmael.
For me, I think it's still a national spokesperson should emerge from that. I think everything you say I agree with, but I think we're working it from the bottom up. But I think once we work it out, someone at the top should be able to tell us, okay, we made progress this year. This is where we're going. This is our vision. It should go back down, back to the community. And like I said, you can stay autonomous, but I think ultimately we do need someone that is a representative that's going to speak to us on the national level on behalf of all the other leaders. That's my opinion on it.
And
Okay.
can I,
You and I've talked. Let me say this real quick, because Ishmael and I've had this discussion before. I'm in agreement on having the national spokesperson, but I want the national spokesperson, the words that come out of their mouth, the words that they put on the page or whatever, to be reflective of what the body says. That the body, the ummah, has made a decision on where the community is going to be and go and do and represent and all those things, and all the national spokespersons there, because this is an intelligent, hopefully well-spoken person, is going to put that in words that the media can understand, and in a sense that is not questioned, that they know that we're on solid footing as an ummah. It's not their vision, our vision coming through them. So somebody was about to speak, and I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
no problem, Michael Hameen.
Okay.
I'm in total agreement. In fact, this past Sunday, brother Kareem Hamid and I, we read on American Muslim 360 Contemplations of Imam W.D. Muhammad. We read the Ramadan sessions, and we just read in this past Sunday clear instructions from the Imam in terms of the shura process. And what you said, it should be organic. I mean, it should be from the people. That's where the leader gets his support from the consensus of the people that he's the one to follow. And in the Quran, I think it's in the golden ornaments um, around it's in the 30s. I can't. I have to look it up. But the question is asked of the prophet well, why did you have to get this message and not the people that we look up to? I'm paraphrasing. And Allah gives the prophet this answer. Have you not seen those that are able to supply their own needs? They're able to make production for not only themselves, but to produce for other people? That's a rubber meet the road response that we need to look at. And I think oftentimes we get in our own way because we're not respecting this natural dynamic, that there are people that just know more than us. There are men and women that know more than us, that not only know, but they also uh, have the skill set of application of what they know. And there's still too much ego going on, too much this, well, my thing is kind of mindset that we're going to have to be corrected. We either self-corrected or Allah is going to correct us in this regard, because there's just too much stuff getting in our way. That we have clear, common sense, inspired leadership. And Imam told us that we should look for inspired people that we see that on them. That's why we were pointing to the resourceful people, because we see what they know and what they do, causing them to be resourceful and know how to navigate and move in this complex world. And that's, uh, we don't have enough imams dealing with the critical issues. It's too much conversation that's making us insular, or if we're speaking to the outer public, we're not addressing the critical issues of giving the Quranic medicine to deal with these this social what do you, social
You
yeah, the social conditioning that we a lot of folks. And I sometimes, the more education you have, the more better you're able to rationalize away stuff that you're looking right at it, but you're rational. No, it's not that, you know. And we just have to face the facts that, we need Allah's help. Imam Rashad Abdul Rahman made me aware. I mean, I was aware, but I just wasn't looking at it in this way. We really have to pray to Allah for what we need, and then go get it. It's just that simple. We can't do this without Allah. We have to give more respect to the Quranic guidance, and we need to look to those who have respect for the Quranic guidance more than we have, and respect Prophet Muhammad more than just as a personality in history or in religion, but a type that we are to follow, to ask Allah's help, that we can model our life, our uswa after his uswa.
do that.
Brother Hassan, let me say this real quick, and then
Mhm.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, I'm good.
I think
Okay.
that if a lot of us really and truly studied the life of Prophet Muhammad and the decisions that he made, that there were a lot of us would be hiding in caves. We would not want to walk in his footsteps.
But whether we're
Brother,
light or heavy, God says we got to go forward.
yeah, I know, but I'm just telling you, if you really and truly knew the decisions that he made and what he faced, a lot of people would be very, very afraid to take those same steps.
But that's
They
okay.
would they would cower.
It's not up to them. It's up to the ones that are willing.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's like
I
the
know.
Imam told us about. You have to have in your spirit a desire to be like Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman or Abu Bakr or following Prophet Muhammad. We know we don't have that capacity, but you have to be willing to go forward, whether you light or heavy. Okay, Lord, I'm gonna, here I am, send me, kind of spirit.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And it's only gonna look. This is not a numbers thing. It's only gonna be a few, and the success is with Allah. You know, we have to trust that.
I agree.
Like Gideon in the Bible and Talut in the Quran. You have to trust that God will take the few and make them successful.
Hmm. No,
And
I'm in agreement with you.
and
I'm
I say
just looking around from side to side.
you got to sidestep them. You got to sidestep them.
I know,
You
Michael.
got to step over
Michael.
them. You got to step
Michael.
over them and keep it moving.
I'm looking around, and I'm seeing that's a big pile of folks I got to step over.
That's okay. One with God is enough.
Brother Hassan, come on. What do you think?
No,
You
I'm in
heard a lot in
agreement.
the last few minutes. So give us some insight.
Nah, I'm in agreement with everything that's being said. Um, I'm always I'm I'm always open to see. For instance, when whatever you put out that makes, which is true and makes sense, then I'm always, well, let's form. Let's see your idea. Let's. And I know we got a lot on us. All of us do. But it, to me, just to get that across, then you have to have, to me, you have to have someone or some organization or some person or however to go to these different masjids and speak to the imams or those in charge, and because again, for instance, if every, in which we know they're not, but just say if other, or we had a way to where we could have this, what we're speaking right now, going to those masjids where they don't, we wouldn't have to go there per se. But I'm always into going. I'm about doing
Right.
so. But I mean, I agree 100%. I think the idea becomes, okay, well, how are we gonna do it? And I'm always open. I tell anybody, seriously, man, I'll do it. I'll go. I mean, because that's just the way I am. That's what I do. So I don't mind. I mean, I'm saying, really, I agree with everything that's being said. The idea is, okay, well, now what?
Right.
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 I got
My lady mom, Muhammad Samad, he would say, let's have Shira Bainiyun and let's get ready to box. Let's work it out.
I love it.
Right? That's what he said. Ishmael, am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Exactly.
Right?
Man.
Those are his words. He's ready to box now. And he's talking verbally, right? He's not talking about putting hands
Yeah.
on anybody.
I'm
But
talking about both.
Right.
but hey, before it's almost time for Isha around here, and I missed
Okay.
Maghrib, so I have to make that up. So Ishmael, take
Yeah,
a
let me make
moment
this. Uh-huh.
and tell us about the book, and tell us about the sessions, reading the book, and discussing the book this upcoming
Oh, okay.
with you.
Okay. Well, it's with Bisme WDM,
I understand,
correct?
but I mean
Okay.
you're part of that.
Right. Man, wait, let me let me check real quick. Um, it is on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then on Sundays at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the number is, let me check. Man, you would. I'm not used to this. Let me see. Let's see where it is. The number is 401. That's 401-648-9222. So call in on Sundays at 11 Eastern Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and Sundays 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's three days of a week that we're reading The Treasure Under the Wall. So we just started and have a lot of good feedback and comments. So
And tell them about what the treasure on the wall is. If there's anybody on the call or on YouTube who doesn't know what that is.
like I mean, I know you want to tell everybody what it's about? Like I mean, he might be muted. But no, The Treasure Under the Wall is Thursdays, it was a group of brothers on Thursdays. They would interview the imam and they would record everything, whether they're driving. Every Thursday they recorded just his thoughts and his insights on the Quran, insights on possibly different events that happen in our community. And this is a book that took them about 20 years in the making. So they were already trying to work on this particular book while the imam was still alive. And this is the results of this book. So the first 100 pages is about the imam's life. And I think Sister Aisha Mustafa wanted Rana Shahid to put that in because there had been some books kind of giving some misinformation about the imam. So he wanted to dedicate those first 90 to 100 pages about just some events in the imam's life, so there wouldn't be, there'd be a more accurate book about, some of the things that the imam that came straight from the imam. So, but then the next 400 so pages is about the Thursdays and the insight, and that's quickly what it's about.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm everybody who can. Even if you are coming in the middle of their reading, I think because I've been a part of that particular group over the years, read many books with them. Most of them work of Imam Ronald Shahid. It's educational. You will learn, and I'm not saying that this doesn't happen with other groups. I'm just saying with this particular group, I have learned so much about Imam W.D. Muhammad, the faith of Al-Islam, and the work that still needs to be done. They've helped raise me as a believer. It's a wonderful group of people.
All right, I'll put the information in the chat. So if anyone wants to screenshot that or write it down, it's there.
Okay.
And
Imam Hassan, your brother Hassan, your hand is up again. You got a comment?
Thank you. I was going, but he put it in the chat. So I was going to ask for that.
yeah,
Very good.
Go back to.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, and this is something that we need to. It sounds simple. But we need to meet more, and not just meet for the sake of meeting and chewing the fat. Meet with the direct uh, situations that we want to address and come out with something, some action plan, but we cannot get to the kind of structure that we want unless we're talking to talk about structuring ourselves. We need people that have the resourcefulness, the skill sets to head up these discussions, and keep us on track, because it's so easy for us to go on track. And a lot of times when we meet, we got so much in us, uh, pent up thoughts and feelings and so forth, that we can easily get off. I see it on AM 360. We get to talking about one thing, Brother Ed would offer something, and concretely, and all of a sudden we're going in some other direction. We need people with the skill sets and the spirit to direct us in better organizing ourselves. Men, I think we need to meet as men, and we also need to meet as men and women, brothers and sisters, But there's certain things that we need to address in terms of men, and our responsibility for leading and protecting this community.
Yeah. Sister Aisha, you came off mute. Did you have something that you would like to say?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Walaikum
assalam.
assalam, sister.
I've been on a long time. I thought I had I thought I had disconnected. I'd gone outside, bringing my car in the garage. It
Oh,
was raining.
you know who this is, right? You
I
guys do
do.
know who this is, right? How are things in California?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Even the rain, it's beautiful. Alhamdulillah.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, we're doing good. But I had a question when I first came on, and excuse me, the conversation was going off about one of the international leaders who had said that he had seen, quote, kind of like a extra Islamic flag or something.
Yeah.
And
So
uh-huh,
what happened is a brother, and I wish I could remember the name. It's a brother who's pretty well known in our community who has a Facebook page.
uh-huh,
And most of the posts, and I went back and looked yesterday at most of his posts. In most of his posts, especially over the last year or so, uh, our flag is a part of his post. Either he uploads it or whatever, or
uh-huh.
it's some kind of backdrop. And somehow Facebook pulled the post
Okay.
and wrote him a note saying that the post was reported as being offensive, showing intolerance, blah 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 blah. And it's just our flag. Excuse me,
Uh-uh.
that everybody, all our organizations use and things like that. So this happened to him. I haven't seen it reported that it's happened to anybody else, but he talked to Imam Adam Bia about it. Imam Adam brought it up in our meeting, our Graceline meeting yesterday. And what we were discussing earlier, what Imam Bia and I discussed last night, is putting together some type of formal response. And basically, the type of formal response that we can use in the face of any organization, whether it's governmental or otherwise,
Correct.
coming after our association and our use of that flag.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's
Uh,
what we were talking about. And we're just kind of brainstorming ideas on, again, some kind of response that we can put together that, obviously is diplomatic and all those type things, but also gets the point across as to who we are, what we stand for, what our leader
mhm,
stood for and stands for in all of his language, so that people know
mhm,
who we are and that we're not to
mhm.
be trifled with in these areas.
Right. Right. Yes, because I just thought that was something Sister uh, Nyla, Sister Martha, should know, um, since she's
Yeah,
has a lot of
she was a part of that discussion yesterday, so she's
uh,
well aware of this as well.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I just came in on the end of that and I totally enjoyed the program. I've been
Thank you.
trying to kind of come on all night and I just gave up. I said, this is good just to, and just went to bring my car into the garage because it started to raining, and so I had to try to find my phone and everything. after after all this, I was just closed, shutting down. But alhamdulillah,
Well,
alhamdulillah,
thank
Allah's
you for
God.
joining us. I mean, I
Yes,
want you back every week.
Me,
yeah,
We're
me
now
too. Me too.
yes,
this this particular program, collective conversations, we're only
yes.
going to do it twice a month. And the reason
Oh, uh-huh.
we're going to do it every second and fourth Monday.
Second and fourth.
The
Okay.
Right. The reason
Uh-huh.
for that is some of our other individuals who like to join us, even though some of them couldn't join us tonight because of work. Adam Bia in particular, he has his meetings with the 150 that supports our schools
Oh, uh-huh.
every first and third Monday of every month.
Second and
So
fourth.
we're just trying to make, and also Imam Aziz has a
Mm-hmm.
program that comes on every Monday at 6 Central, 7 o'clock Eastern time on AM 360. And we were actually asked to move our program back an hour to accommodate him so that there was no conflict. So that's why
Oh,
we now start at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock
it's
Central
7 o'clock.
Time.
So
Right.
it's five,
Central Time, 5 o'clock for you.
my time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Every second and fourth Monday.
indeed. Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to put that on my book here, and
All right, brother.
inshallah, I'll be able to make it. I totally enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
yeah, alhamdulillah, I just remain patient. That's what patience got me. I got my
Definitely.
got my question answered. Time I came on, you
And,
were speaking of that, and I kept trying to come in to ask the question, and I just forgot about it. So, okay, alhamdulillah, and then
hey, and
going to bed.
as one of my good friends always says on his program, tell a friend.
Tell, oh, right. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so very much. And I
Thank you,
will.
sister.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
will. Now tell a friend. Good night to
All
everybody.
right.
Assalamu alaikum
Thank
to
you.
all of
Wa
you.
Walaikum
alaikum
salam.
assalam, Sister
Alhamdulillah.
Aisha. Thank you.
Muhammad Sharif, do you have any parting comments for us this evening? Well,
He has
one of
trouble.
the
He has trouble
sometimes, yeah.
No,
unmuting himself.
thank you,
Yes,
Brother Elder.
sir. How are you,
I was
brother?
just listening. No, I was just listening.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for being part of it.
You're welcome.
So one of the things that, and I think I just mentioned this a few minutes ago, so I apologize for repeating myself because there was, Michael, you made a comment or someone made a comment about the fact that we talk a lot. And in some senses, we don't do everything. We don't take action on everything we talk about. So there are some shining examples, obviously, of our communities that are absolutely positively getting things done in a very positive way. And I would love to have people come on this program, other programs, and shout to the mountaintops about things that they are actually doing and succeeding at. Because I think we need to hear those stories
I agree.
all the time. The one of the things, and Brother Muhammad Sharif constantly brings this up. One of the things that we have been failing at to a certain extent in our community is our schools.
Yes,
And I will say it again for the third, fourth, fifth time, or however many times till I bore you to tears, that the tax dollars that we pay, that a portion of those tax dollars, if not all of those tax dollars, need to be coming back into our faith communities to help support our schools and help to start schools in our communities.
I agree.
And
I
through the
agree.
charter system, we can get that done. And I think we can get that done without giving up our autonomy of having schools based around our values and virtues. I think it can be done. Milwaukee's doing it. They're a charter school, our community in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're doing it. And I'm sure they're not the only one. This is one that I know of. It can be done. And we can have children from throughout communities, Muslim children, Christian children, children and families that have no particular faith, because the parents aren't involved in any faith community, but they want their children to have a quality education based around solid values so that they become good citizens, successful citizens. We can do that. And that's something I would like to see us start working on. Those people who definitely are aligned and working in the education system to take the lead on that and pull the rest of us in wherever they think we may fit to help them get it done. And I'm going to stop on that tonight before I bore you guys to tears because that
Oh no, you
is one
got
of
me
those things.
got me excited, man. I could go on a little bit longer, at least 15 more minutes.
Right. I don't know. I probably told y'all this before. I know I probably said it, but you know we do have a default leadership. You know that, right?
Of course.
Who do you think it is?
Well, I mean, okay, so when you say default leadership,
Uh-huh.
you're talking about someone who is out there being a voice for our community.
Correct. Addressing current events, different things. If you ask AI, what does the Imam Warfdi Muhammad think about the Palestinian crisis? What does Warfdi Muhammad think about this or that?
Hmm.
There is a default leadership, and I just want people to know
You're
that.
talking about the brother whose name should not be mentioned.
Well, I mean, it could be Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad. I mean,
Okay,
when you
so
anything current, that's what's being presented as if you go through AI, that's what those
wow.
current things. And I just want to let people know that. So we do have
Wow.
a spokesperson, and that's what's the majority is going to come up. So I just like to let people
Dude,
know that. So
you can get all the people that follow him
uh-huh.
into a locker room at a small health club.
That's true. You're right. I agree. I agree. But he does have an effect on our community. I mean, I look at him as um he's going to address anything that he thinks isn't right. And I think
Being addressed. So
right,
basically, he's filling a void because, as far as the media, which is where AI is pulling a lot of its
right,
information from, is still legacy media and all these other pieces that are floating around out there.
right. And that's a
So
good way to put it.
he's
He's
filling
filling
that
that void.
void.
Yes, his voice,
Mm.
his thoughts are. I just want to let people know I
Who is
mean,
it?
it's
Who is that? Who is that again, Ishmael?
Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad. I'm just letting you know. I'm
Okay,
saying.
all right,
I'm
yeah.
just letting you know when you pull it up. Like if you pull
He's
up AI, if you
he's
ask Google,
he's
uh
got
huh,
good PR, and they choose for us. Those who they want us to give attention to. They'll acknowledge.
right.
That's how that thing works. We got to be aware of the psychology of this
Well,
world.
no. Well, hold on. Let's look at this logically, though. I'm a regular user of ChatGPT, and I'm every now and then, whenever it's convenient, user of Gemini. I haven't used Anthropic's Claude that much, but I
I
have
use
an account.
Perplexity. I use mostly Perplexity. That's who I
Okay,
use mostly.
Perplexity is out there, and I
Uh-huh.
haven't touched that one yet, but I heard it's good. One of the things that is happening with all of those major platforms is that day by day they are removing bias. So you're going to get to the point that if you really and truly want to have influence and you want to be noticed and known as a thought leader, you're going to have a legitimate shot at it if you're willing to put your voice out there.
I
Yep.
This
understand.
is taking the choice. People are not going to be presenting things to us on a rusty plate.
Well,
You're actually going to be able to influence these things yourself.
Well, I understand that there's also some bias involved because of the way the real social leaders and influencers how they operate. So the one I look to is Imam Rashad Abdul Rahman because of the diversity of topics dealing with not only America and the religion of Al Islam being established, but other critical issues here and abroad.
Right.
And I've told him as much. But look, I'm aware from the Quranic insight how Satan operates, and we we have we have continually had, what do you call it? These curators, you know, even amongst us, I hear us talking about the civil rights movement. It wasn't a civil rights movement, you know. We have these perceptions curated for us. And, like Allah says, Allah will present something, and then Satan will do something. He'll present something similar, but
Right.
it's not as good. So I'm very much aware of that. And Earl would be the natural choice of this world's choosing. You know, Farrakhan is about on his last legs. So Earl would naturally be someone presented. To not represent Al Islam properly, but seemingly doing so. It's just like
Hmm.
it's just like AI presenting. Look at this, AI presenting Denzel Washington, who was recently baptized, presenting him as an authority on presenting Al Islam, and then resurrecting Maya Angelou to do the same. This is this is AI.
Right. But brother Michael, I understand what you're saying, but I've yet to hear anyone say that the stuff Imam Earl Abdul Malik saying isn't true. I've yet to hear anybody say that he's saying things that don't represent the religion. I haven't heard any leader say that.
Well, his methodology is what the issue is. No, they're not going to say that because he's going to be presenting. It's just like the AI. It was very subtle when Denzel Washington's voice was presenting Al Islamic principles and so forth.
Hmm.
Accurate, but
Right.
you have to also consider the intent.
Hmm.
It's the way of a good con man to get you saying yes, yes, yes.
Right. Get you saying yes once.
Yeah,
Right. Then they got you.
get you saying it enough so that they can get their poison in you. And
Yeah.
this world is professional in this way. You know, you
Well,
know.
let me say this more accurately because, like I said, I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about him until he said he was an assessor when he was in prison. I said, "Who is this guy?" And I started listening to him. But let me be more accurate in what I'm saying. I have yet to hear someone say that he's not speaking the Imam's language. I haven't
Well,
heard any privately or publicly. I haven't heard anyone that they'll talk about the things he did, but I've never heard anybody talk about what he's saying is incorrect or he's not representing the Imam. I haven't heard anyone say that.
well, I'll say he's not representing the imam. I'll say it.
Well,
It's because
can
because
I can I speak?
because and let me finish my point.
Go ahead, bro.
Because the way he's representing himself and those around him representing him is the idea of this chosen leadership representation, which was not what the imam represents to us. The imam represents to us in terms of the public saying, yes, this is our leader, the Muslim public, I should say, this is our leader. And again, oftentimes it's not the lie of omission. Oftentimes it's the lie. I'm sorry. It's not the lie of omission. It's the lie of omission. You know that is the issue. It's what's not being said, or how what is being said is being presented. And in the way he's presenting, in my opinion, is a misrepresentation.
Well,
Yes, I think.
can I say
Go ahead,
something?
brother. Yes, sir.
I know I'm
I'm
late,
listening.
so sorry about that. I'm just leaving the office, man. But the first thing is, where's the rule to say we got to have a leader right now? First of all,
The rule, the
and
rule.
second of all, and
Go
second of
ahead.
all, if
Go
we
ahead.
do have a leader, and we do have a leader, and they say, well, he was the national representative of Imam Muhammad, right?
Hmm.
Based on that methodology, who succeeded on Elijah Muhammad?
His son,
But Elijah Muhammad had a national representative, didn't he?
most definitely. Who was it? Farrakhan, I
So
believe.
Farrakhan. So why didn't he
Yeah.
become the leader?
Right. I remember the man saying they say the vice president always don't always become the president. So I get what you're saying. I
Exactly,
do.
exactly.
I do get what you're saying.
So a brother come up and talking about he's the leader. He ain't my leader.
Me either.
Right. And
So
I think once he saw,
he's only the leader. He's only the leader of those that want him to be the leader. That's right.
That's right.
right, and I think he saw
So,
once people weren't buying that from him, he changed it up. He said, "I'm not saying I'm the leader. I'm representing the imam as far as what his thoughts would be on events." I think he kind of changed it up once he saw people weren't going to follow him like that. So
Yeah.
now he's changed up what
they
successor
still pushing
means.
him. They still pushing him as that.
Yeah.
I'm still getting messages and emails from brothers to say that. And I asked you, brother, I said, I would appreciate if you quit sending me this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a leader.
Right.
And
I got you.
again, you got so much stuff out there that the imam said, and we're not talking about distant hadith. You got videos and recordings and books, right? So the man's knowledge ain't gone nowhere.
That's right.
All they gotta do is study knowledge. And a lot of people is doing that. I doubt if they study man's knowledge.
I agree.
Because I study it all the time. And I don't come away from that looking for a leader. You know.
I guess I beg to differ on that because I think every organization needs a leader. I believe.
Well, you know,
What's the name of the organization?
in the tradition of Prophet Muhammad, if you travel, you have to select one as the leader.
Right.
That's the sunnah, and that can be
Yes.
carried over. It's not. What kind of leader are you talking about? There's
But that's
leadership.
my point.
Yeah, you have to define the leadership according to the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad. That's our standard. And a lot of times this world invites us away from that to use other types of methodologies, and that's where we mess up.
Right. And who said that leader got to be in the personality?
That's
Right.
true.
Definitely
I
shouldn't
Agree.
be personality.
I agree with that 100%.
It
Right.
don't
The
have to
other
be in
thing,
personality.
the other thing to consider is that if we're modeling after Prophet Muhammad, is that there were leaders. In other words,
Exactly.
That's
to
true.
use some of the language that you used earlier, Michael, there were servants. There were
Yeah,
people who were put in positions of responsibility
that's it
to
exactly.
serve the community.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? This person's over collecting zakat. This person's
Yes.
over education. This person's over road building. This person's over leading caravans. This person's over such and such,
Isn't
based
that
on
the
their
way?
qualities.
Isn't that the way that the progressive societies operate?
Well, I mean, we can examine progressive societies, or we can simply decide that the Medina model was a progressive society,
I agree.
and we can model ourselves after that.
And I think we should, but I'm just using that, in terms of the structural components of leadership responsibility in various areas. That's how progression operates.
Right. And as I said earlier, you start that on the local basis,
I agree.
and then you move up the food chain
Yes, sir.
with that, all of that firmly in place at the state, at the local, the state, the regional, and then whoever these other people are at the national level. And when you have Shurabanium, either they're going to sign off on what the body says is happening positively in the direction the body wants to go, or they can decide they don't want to be in the position. They can't handle it.
Yes, sir.
But we got to start local.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you got leaders in every aspect. At the masjid, we got a leader. Right? That follows the idea of Prophet Muhammad said, wherever two or more of you pray, select one to lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have local leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and and with authority. Now you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the idea of organization. What organization is it?
Well, I'm saying once we get the regional leaders, they should pick someone that's a leader out of them. We got
But
regional leaders.
Yeah, but that don't put them over our local concerns.
No,
No,
they don't.
no,
It
we're
No,
doesn't.
not
No.
saying that. They're
no.
So this
representatives.
idea, they're representatives, and who
Right.
picks
Yeah,
them are the imams around the state.
Well, look,
right.
Like we have a state, we
but
have a state.
the imams around
Go
the
ahead.
state ought to have an organizational structure within, in terms of, like the imam told us in the 10-year celebration, we need to have committees and boards, but they have to be Islamically grounded. They can't be in opposition to the resident imam. They should be their focus should be in moving that group of people in the Islamic Center or the that group forward. You know, uh,
Well, we have a state organization in North Carolina, been operating over 20, almost 30 years. You understand? And the imams get together and we select a convener.
yes,
As a matter of fact, when I first met Earl B. Malik, he had come to North Carolina trying to convince us to establish an office for the imam in North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I had a chance to first work with him. You know, and I was the convener at the time. You understand? He wanted us to draft a letter to send to the imam saying that we forming this office, whatever, for him to accept it. So I drafted a letter and sent it to the imam. You understand? But the idea was, it was told us that the imam was going to establish the office. That wasn't quite the way it was.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I
So
understand.
I wrote a letter, you know, and so the brother said, well, write a letter. And he said, this is before email, Mr. Pond. He said, fax it to me. So I did it. I faxed it to him for him to get, you know, see what he wrote. And I waited. 2 weeks went by, and he had never got back to me. So I mailed the letter off to the imam's office. About 3 days after I mailed it, he called me up because he hadn't seen it. He just inquiring about the letter. I said, you know, he was following up with me about what was in the letter. And he wanted to suggest certain changes, right? And me being leery, coming out of the first resurrection, being leery of brothers that come from up north in these established cities, so they always treat the
Mm-hmm.
brothers down south. They always treat us like we were second class Muslims down south.
that's
Right.
true. That's true. Country
So
Muslim.
I wrote the letter in a way that if it wasn't the imam's idea, he would see who the idea came from, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Right.
That might have been one of them southern
You
bumpkins.
you were
You
right
know what
on,
they call it,
right on time though.
brother. I wasn't born at night, bro, or last night.
Yeah,
And he wanted to say, I said, well, I already sent that letter out. He said, what? What? You told me to send it? You know. Then another time I called him up, and he says, well brother, I don't normally take calls from Muslims. Okay. He said, but you
Wow.
ask convenient, I'll take your call. I
mm.
said to myself, well, excuse the hell out of me.
Yeah,
For real.
You know. So from that point, I didn't have a whole lot for him at all. You know, I didn't treat him civilly, but I didn't give him no influence because the man said we were autonomous. He said
Mm-hmm.
our masters are autonomous. Just don't mean autonomous to anything national. That's autonomous to everybody that ain't part of our master. We make our decisions. You understand? Nobody has the right to come over us and dictate.
that's right.
And that's what so we formed the organization out master. We got bylaws. And our bylaws was constructed to tell how we rule. And some of the bylaws came from information that Imam Muhammad had put in writing. So that's what we do. So even if we do that and we have a leader, man, took us away from this thing where here's a leader and he's like sitting up at the top of this thing, and we just answer his beckoning and calling. That ain't the way he created. That ain't the way we evolved. So
That's right.
naturally, a leader like that would have big problems with me.
Right.
One thing about the imam, I trust. I think who was that? I trust the imam. Like you said, he came in. He could have just as easily said, "I'm the new messenger of Allah."
Yeah.
He didn't. He didn't. He said, "I'm just a brother."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Philadelphia. He told them brothers when he was speaking in Philadelphia, "I drive a Pontiac." So anybody that's paying these imams to drive Mercedes Benz and Cadillacs, your leader drive a Pontiac. Why you doing driving back then, deuce and a quarter, and whatever you got?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my leader, brother.
And look at the last public address. He challenged us about waiting on leaders to do things. He encouraged us to be proactive. And he gave the example of the head to the body, it's smaller, but look at what the head does in leading the body. And he even in the last public address, for those that are students, there's insight in terms of how we should operate. And he described himself as like what do you call it? The broad stroke leadership. And he said the there are others that would bring in the details, you know.
Mhm.
So we've got people that know. I respect Brother Edward in how he's detail oriented and giving us, putting flesh on the bones, And so we should look to one another, each other's strengths. I know I'm not a detailed person, but I do have a broad stroke, and I think Allah has blessed me to be connected with the spirit of the Imam as well as the language body, and the resources like this book, The Treasure Under the Wall.
So let me ask a question then. So we came to the conclusion that, okay, this X person is going to be, this person represents what the Imam Muhammad used to represent for us as far as leadership. You think that that wouldn't be what the Imam wanted? Is that what I'm hearing? Not saying he's going to be the Imam, but he's the representative of what the Imam used to be for our community. So we came to that decision.
So
That'll be, go ahead.
what is he bringing new?
He probably won't be bringing anything new. It's just a
All right.
reminder
So
of where we're supposed to be going. And national
all right.
conventions, he may be the one that gives us, okay, this is where we did, this is where we need to be going, things of that nature.
Everybody,
So
if I can
why we
interject,
need him?
You say why?
everybody already knows where we've been, where we came from.
I don't think we do. I
No, I'm
really
talking about
I
for
don't.
know,
that.
I think, no,
I'm
I
talking
was a
about for
part
that
of
past
the, I
year.
was
I'm
a
talking
part
about
of the
what
50
we've.
year. And
Mhm.
I do and truly believe that we have a lot of people who understand where we've come from. I've listened to them, and I've listened to recordings and videos of Imam W.D. Muhammad, and it's like a shadow. He moves, they move. The language is the same. The understanding of the history was the same. We know where we started in 1975, and I think we know where we are. And I actually and truly think that there are enough people in our community that know what we should be doing going forward, but we lack the organization. And I'm not talking about corporate with a chairman and all of that stuff. I'm talking about the same things that I talked about before, about starting locally and incorporating all the practices that Imam W.D. Muhammad tried to install in us, modeling after Prophet Muhammad and what he established in Medina, and extrapolating that out in current day language and language of Imam W.D. Muhammad on the local level, and spreading that statewide, regional, and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Not waiting for things to trickle down from some quote unquote leader or leadership committee or anything of that nature. It won't happen. It'll be too late. Everything that starts there and comes
Mm-hmm.
down is late. And
Every
Well,
is going to have no
mhm.
way of knowing what's going on at the local level and what's needed. It's got to
Go ahead,
start.
brother Adam. I'll wait.
Well, local level is every local level has its own character and nature. You understand? Its own character and nature. It's going to be hard to duplicate things on certain local areas if you don't have the resources there that others have. You understand?
Right.
We
The
discussed
problem.
that earlier. So
Okay, I'm sorry, I
let me
wasn't on
say
the
this, and
call.
I've used this one time before in a conversation. When I was doing estate planning for businesses in the state of Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
we had a basic policy that we worked on. And that
Mm-hmm.
was when we talked to a family about helping them do their wills and their trust and all that stuff, that our
Mm-hmm.
solution was 100%. That in a perfect world, this is what you do. You establish this
Mm-hmm.
trust, and you put your business like this, and you have your buy-sell agreements like this, and your will is written out like this, and all your insurance is set up like such and such. That's 100% plan. How much of that plan are we going to be able to afford to do today to start? 30%, 50%, 70%? But your goal is 100%. Jackson,
No,
Mississippi
well,
doesn't have the resources of Atlanta, Georgia.
right.
But whatever Atlanta, Georgia is trying to accomplish based on what we as an overall UMA collectively decide is where we want to go, Atlanta, Georgia may be at 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackson, Mississippi might be at 40%. And if that's where Jackson, Mississippi is, that's perfect. They're doing everything that they can. And their goal is to get a little bit closer to that adjusted 100%, because you got to have
Right.
and go back and make
Right.
adjustments on a regular basis
Mm-hmm.
as they can get progress. Yes,
Oh, I
Adam's
agree with that.
right. Everybody doesn't have
We're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing. So you have to have the ability to know where you are, you know, and where you're trying to go. You can't start. I mean, if you look at our community, look at Atlanta, naturally, because of the conditions in our community, you can't start us at the same point, right?
exactly.
And that's what we're talking about. That's what I meant,
Yeah.
from that point of view.
And then, you know, the Imam Muhammad was concerned about places like Atlanta and other municipalities and their organizational structure, how they can not be like an oasis in the desert, but how they could give those nearby community groups, give them assistance. That was a concern that he had. You know, where you don't have an Atlanta like a oasis in the desert, and all around, you know, is unproductivity. You know, and so in my way of thinking, the the broader leadership uh, model should have a way of identifying the resources in this place and that place, who's doing what in terms of education, and how what they have can benefit other areas, that, you know, what they can take away, and you know, find out
Mm-hmm.
where you know, certain activities that we should need for establishment of Muslim community life, uh, who is doing what in terms of the structure, in terms of getting us there, institutional mindedness is where we need to move beyond the resident imam model of leadership. Not that he has his place. I once heard Imam Nasser Ahmed kind of downplay the idea of resident imam. The imam's role is not that important. And when you look at the design for community life, that is true because we need the engineers, we need the entrepreneurs, we need educators, we need the social scientists, we need the psychologists. We got needs for community life beyond resident imam model, and that's where we need to have vehicles in order to keep that focus, that we've got to become better and better structured, better and better organized for community life. And so the foundation has got to be right. And we've got those that understand that, and they need to come forward and be recognized.
Yeah, and I think
But
that
they don't
organization has
understand
to
it. They
start
don't
from the top.
understand it. They
Right.
don't.
I think it starts from the top. Go ahead, sir. I'll go after you. Go ahead.
That's right. Look, I used to live in Atlanta. I went to high school in Atlanta. There's not that many cities, definitely around the South, like Atlanta.
That's true.
African Americans, even if they ain't Muslim, African American Christians advance more than the average African Americans in other places.
That's true.
Right.
All right, so you can't say you can't. There's just too much at play in that. They have more educated people, they have people that have more wealth. We
Right.
ain't got that here in Fayetteville, right?
But that's
So
not the issue that the imam presented, was that how they can use what they have, their resources, to help those less uh less endowed communities. Look, when
Right.
I moved to Atlanta in 1977, and when I got
okay,
there, Imam Bacha had established an imam's class, and I identified the sisters in the class as instructresses, all on top of one another, teaching one another and problematic issues. When I got there, a spirit of taking this out, and we found people in the class going to Gainesville, I went to Newnan, Georgia, and taking the message out and servicing these ideas to the general public, particularly the African American public outside of Atlanta. So that was my experience.